just like the S-Class, oh man, wait a minute, where was I going with that?
Futuristic, but what was that?
And check it out, if you swipe your finger like this, it'll open. Open! Open! Legacy automakers have been watching Tesla dominate EV sales for years, but Mercedes has decided that that ends now. They've launched an entire EQ sub-brand, and we are finally getting our first taste of it here in the US with the car you see to my right. This is the 2022 Mercedes EQS, and Mercedes is calling this the S-Class of electric cars. Let's see what it's all about. Now, I think the shape will take some getting used to, but I really am kind of sold on the front end. It has some really cool headlights, including this straight line that connects the two at night. You've got this really cool black panel that houses all of your sensors and things, and you have the little Mercedes three-pointed stars within it. It's a really nice look here up front. At 205 inches long, the EQS is actually 3 inches shorter than its gas-powered S-Class equivalent, but it has very different proportions. It's actually a little taller and significantly wider than the gas-powered S-Class. And as you can see, this car looks very different from an S-Class. It has this very cab-forward design. Mercedes says it has a one-bow design here with this line that kind of curves across. It gives it a sort of teardrop shape. I'm not really sold on the overall shape, but you can't argue with the results. This car posts a 0.20 drag coefficient, the lowest and slipperiest of any car on sale today. Now, as I mentioned, it's the side profile where things really start to get interesting. You can get the EQS in one of 3 different exterior guises. We have the AMG line, which is why we have these really cool wheels, but there are some really funky options available. I'm really loving this matte gray finish. I think it looks really good on the EQS. What I'm not loving as much are these pop-out door handles. You kind of slide your finger across it in a very specific way, and they will open. I've gotten to work it a couple times. You just have to be very gentle, and there they will pop out. There is another way to get the EQS on the top end. It will actually open the door automatically for you when you walk up with the key, and it will close it automatically when you put your foot on the brake. Kind of like a Rolls Royce, so I do like that feature. Now let's wrap up with the rear styling. I'm not really sold on the EQS as a whole. I just don't think it has that elegance that you'd want from a 6-figure car. It kind of blends in just a little bit too much. It even kind of reminds me of an SUV shape back here. But like an SUV, we have one really big benefit. Because of the way this car is shaped, we have this massive lift back trunk. Just look at all the storage space back there. Those seats do fold flat and you get a huge amount of room. Now you don't get a trunk up front, but you do have a massive amount of space back here, which I think makes this a little better than an S-Class in terms of practicality.
So as we saw, the exterior of the EQS looks pretty futuristic. Now it looks gorgeous, but how does it work in practice? Well, we have our screen right here that acts as our gauges. Right now I have it showing a map, and it's pretty easy to switch between them. So I can have my normal gauges, I can have like a sporty gauge, I can have it showing my drive assist, things like that. I control that here using the steering wheel. The main attraction is this 17.7-inch OLED display here in the center. It's all a touchscreen. There is no more sort of control unit to use here. And this uses what Mercedes calls their new zero-layer infotainment system. So basically what that's going to do is your map is always going to be there in the background, there ready for you to put a GPS destination. And as you can see, we've got our Pop 2K music station. We've got our devices here, and it's been learning about my and my drive partner's preferences here. So we've been using the massage feature a lot, so it will put a little massage button right here to notify that we're ready to use them. So it is learning, and it is a really cool function, and I like how things are very quick and accessible. You've got all of your climate controls down here. It is very easy to use, and you do get haptic feedback, making it just a little bit easier to feel when you've clicked something while you're moving. Now I could basically talk endlessly about all of the cool features in here. We have a biometric scanner, fingerprint scanner right here that'll basically read you, and it'll know your profile, so you can set up your seating position. It'll learn your radio and your massage preferences and all of that sort of stuff, or you can have that set up via your My Mercedes account. If you don't love touching on the screen, you can always say, "Hey Mercedes, please turn on my massage seat," and it will do that as well. Now you might be wondering what this screen off to the right is. It measures 12.3 inches and you can't actually do anything with it unless you have a passenger sitting right here. But basically it mirrors all of the stuff that you can do here, so they can set the radio, they can be your co-pilot, set a GPS navigation prompt. You don't necessarily need that screen, but it is nice for the passenger to have it right in front of them directly. They can also control their own music, so if they want to listen to something different from you on a pair of headphones, they can do that as well without disturbing the driver. When it's not in use, it can display a compass as we see here, or you can have it be a couple of different backgrounds. You can have it be like 3 pointed stars and some other nice things as well. It really adds to the ambiance, as does this gorgeous ambient lighting. I love all the different colors that you can set it to here in the comfort settings. If we go to ambient lighting, we can play around with some of these. Right now we had it on purple first. Let's go ahead and set it on sort of a red one. I love what Mercedes does here with the ambient lightings. It's absolutely gorgeous in here.
Now, I was very impressed with the interior of the EQS overall, but there is one area where I think this does not live up to its gas-powered S-Class sibling, and that is here in the back seat. I find that the seat cushion is very tall, so my knees are up a little higher than I'd like, and I'm not very tall, keep in mind. I'm only about 5'8". The backrest is also not all that comfortable either. Now, if you step up to the top trim of the EQS, you can get heated and ventilated massage seats that are powered and slide. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to try one of those out on this trip, but the normal base spec seat just isn't as comfortable as I'd expect of an S-Class. It also seems like Mercedes has gone out of their way to make sure that the S-Class is nicer than the EQS. You can get a tablet that pops out of the center console here, but there is no rear screen entertainment option like you can get on the S-Class. Now, as we take the EQS out on the road, now is a great time to remind everybody to please smash that like button, subscribe to our channel if you've enjoyed this video so far, and hit the notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. And if you want to learn more about the Mercedes EQS, something we don't mention in the video, we have plenty more information over on carbuzz.com. So in the same way Mercedes likes to name its gas engine cars, you can technically think of the 450 Plus as like the 6-cylinder model, whereas the 580 is going to be more like an 8-cylinder model. So on the EQS 450 Plus, you're going to get a single electric motor on the rear axle, driving the rear wheels, producing 326 horsepower. That version is smooth. I drove it all day yesterday, but it definitely doesn't throw you back in your seat the way some electric cars do. It'll hit 60 miles an hour in 5.5 seconds, which I found adequate. I thought the acceleration was perfectly fine. So you can essentially think of the EQS 450 Plus as like the 6-cylinder model, whereas this 580 model is more like an 8-cylinder model. So the 450 Plus gets a single electric motor on the rear axle, producing 326 horsepower. I found that version to be very smooth. It doesn't pin you back in your seat, but it's quick enough for everyday purposes to not feel sluggish. Now, if you're one of those people who wants your electric car to jolt you in the head, that's definitely not for you, but I think that most buyers will be satisfied with the 5.5 second 0 to 60 time on the EQS 450 Plus. Now, we're driving the EQS 580, which adds a second electric motor on the front axle, and together with the motor on the rear axle, they combine to produce 516 horsepower. Now that's going to deliver you a lot more performance. You'll hit 60 miles an hour in just 4.1 seconds, which I know is not as fast as some Tesla models will do, but it is still really quick. If I go ahead and hit the throttle now, woo, it really does thrust you back into your seat, your very comfy pillowy seat, in a nice way. And you might have heard that as I did that, we have two different noise profiles here on the EQS that you can turn off if you just want it to be silent, but we have on like the sportier sound right now, and Mercedes says it's actually going to offer an even sportier one through an OTA update. But go ahead and listen to this when I hit throttle real quick. Ooh, it sounds kind of Formula One-esque. It's almost as if I'm driving an F1 car through the tunnel at Monaco. Kind of makes me feel like Lewis Hamilton. I mean, Mercedes has been dominating F1 for years now, so why not integrate a little bit of that technology into the electric flagships that they had? I think it sounds really cool, but you can turn it off if you think it's annoying. Now, if you're into all that speed and power nonsense, they are going to do an AMG variant of the EQS that's coming later, sometime next year. That's going to produce 649 horsepower, but with an overboost function, it will produce 751 horsepower, which that's just outrageous. It'll do 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. Again, not really gonna beat a Tesla Model S Plaid, but this is a big, comfy luxury car. It's not meant for the drag strip. In fact, I kind of want to take you away from that comparison with the Tesla Model S. The EQS is really in a different league of luxury. You've already seen how gorgeous this interior, but I want to talk to you about how this car drives. It really is the S-Class of electric cars. The standard air suspension is sublime. The steering is very sharp, definitely sharper than what you'll get in a Tesla. The ride comfort is great, and in some ways it actually handles better than an S-Class because of that low center of gravity, because we have rear steering helping us nudge this car around and make it feel more agile. It just doesn't ever feel uncomposed no matter how terrible of a road you're on. We definitely hear some road noise, but the suspension does such a nice job of smoothing it out. This is an absolutely serene experience in the wheel of the EQS. So this really doesn't compete with the Model S. It's just such a higher standard of noise, vibration, and harshness. I'm really interested to drive the new Lucid Air, which is a completely new electric vehicle from a very new company. I think that's really the only competition that exists right now for the EQS. The Model S is a fast car, don't get me wrong, but in terms of luxury, comfort, serenity, it just doesn't hit the EQS's level. And I'm sure at this point you're wondering, oh, that's all great, but can it beat a Tesla on range? Well, not really, but Mercedes has done a really good job here. The EQS has a massive battery. I think it's 111 kilowatt hours. That's humongous. That's actually bigger than the one Tesla uses in the Model S. And we finally have the EPA estimated ranges for this car. It's going to do 350 miles if you get the 450 plus version. If you go for this dual motor 580 version, you'll get 10 miles fewer, so 340 miles on a charge, which I think is plenty to quell your range anxiety. Now, in terms of charging, you can go from 0 to 100 in about 11.5 hours on a wall box at home, or if you're DC fast charging, you can do it in 31 minutes from 10 to 80% at a 110 kilowatt charge rate. Other EVs can charge quicker, but the EQS can charge at a peak 200 kilowatt rate, which is pretty darn quick. Now, the thing that I think is really important here with the EQS is the ease of charging. Mercedes has this new system now that'll work with Electrify America, where all you have to do is plug it in and it will handle all of the payments for you. You don't have to scan a separate app. You just have one account through Mercedes and it'll kind of work with all of the aggregate charging networks. I think that is the most important part because charging on public networks is a little bit of a hassle as of right now. Now, if you watched this video and you were expecting the EQS to be affordable, we hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the damage isn't quite as bad as you might think. The EQS 450 Plus premium trim starts at $102,310, making it around $9,000 less than the base S-Class, though we must admit the base S-Class has about 100 more horsepower at that price. The EQS 580 4MATIC is a huge step up at $119,110, but you do get a lot more power. There are two other trim levels above the premium. We've been driving the exclusive trim, which I think is pretty nice, but I think you might as well step up to the Pinnacle because it really isn't that much more expensive. To step up to the exclusive trim will cost you around $3,400, and stepping up to the top Pinnacle trim is only a $6,200 upgrade, so I would prefer to get a 450 Plus Pinnacle versus stepping up to the EQS 580. When you're spending over $100,000 anyway, why not ball out and get the nicest model possible? So that was the 2022 Mercedes-Benz EQS. I'm really hoping to get this car for a longer period of time so I can really live with it and tell you what it's like. But I think this is a really cool first attempt at an electric car for the US market for Mercedes. It really encapsulates a lot of what we love about the gas-powered S-Class, but now does it in an electric format. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want to read even more about the Mercedes EQS, because we couldn't get to all of it in this video review, be sure to go ahead and check out carbuzz.com. I'll see you next time.